if you would like to see a totally unhinged conversation, go to Trigonometry and look at Konstantin Kisin and his conversation with Saifedean Ammous. I'm not sure I'm saying his last name right. He's the dude who wrote Bitcoin Standard. Saifedean is absolutely insane, biased, emotional, and really nasty. He keeps insulting Konstantin, who's putting forth like regular, sane opinions. He keeps saying, I could be wrong, this is the way I see it. Saifedean accuses him essentially of wanting a genocide of Palestinians, accuses him maybe 100 times of being like an NPC because he's not thinking that he's okay with Israel doing whatever they want to do in Palestine. And Konstantin keeps saying that's not the case. That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying is Hamas is a terrorist organization. October 7th was a terrorist attack, and Israel is engaged in a war. It's not a genocide. It's a lot of bombing. It's not a genocide. And yes, Israel can go too far. In fact, their history, the way Israel came about, I'm not completely comfortable with. But in this case, Israel's doing what it has to do after a terrorist attack by subhuman animals in Hamas. Well, Saifedean doesn't believe women were R-worded in Palestine. Like no chance. He thinks it's all fabricated. I'm not going to say that's insane, but it's like, even if they didn't R-word the women, do you think the response from the world would be any different? He thinks the reason these people came out and started talking about R-wording women was to gin up more of a passionate response from the public, from the international community. If they had killed all innocent men, I don't think the response from Israel would be any different, right? And nobody I know is saying, hey, they R-worded women, just destroy everybody in Palestine. Nobody's saying that. It's just Hamas is an evil terror organization, and the idea that they would R-word women, it doesn't like boggle the mind. So really all you're saying, okay, they didn't R-word them, but they just shot them in the head and set them on fire. Saifedean doesn't think Hamas killed that many people on October 7th. He thinks the Israeli military did. Now, I've heard conflicting reports about this. The idea is if the Israeli military sees a civilian about to be kidnapped, they have a directive to take out even their own civilians. Okay, so we can debate the morality of that, but you can see why, even if you're not comfortable, you can see why they would do that. I was just watching last night, Olympus Has Fallen, or Angel Has Fallen, one of those Fallen movies with Gerard Butler. Is that his name? Anyways, and the president is about to be kidnapped and tortured on live TV, or possibly be kidnapped and tortured on like a YouTube live stream. And he says to the president in the show, says to Gerard Butler, he's like, listen, if they get me, you have to kill me. You have to kill me. Don't let them live stream. Don't let them torture me. I don't want to be on YouTube on a loop forever. So like, it's not completely insane that the government say, we don't want to deal, we don't want our civilians tortured. We don't want them held hostage over there. They're mistreated, etc. Now, we could say, no, that you could also take the position, we don't do that. If they take them hostage, we'll get them later. At least they're still alive. I think it's a valid position. But Saifedean thinks there's been that the majority, it just comes across that the way he speaks, the majority of people killed on October 7th were killed by the Israelis. That's what he thinks. I don't know. They filmed it. They filmed what they did. They filmed it. They wanted to go relive it, like the way you might film a sporting event. And you do good. You go home, you watch your highlights. They want to go home and watch the highlights and show it to their neighbors and show it to their family. And also to improve their tactics. So Hamas clearly did this. Now, he keeps saying it's a genocide, it's a genocide, it's a genocide. And, quite frankly, it's like, it's a war. It's kind of a traditional sort of war. Israel has dropped 30,000 bombs on Gaza. This is the last number I saw, and this was a few months ago, so I'm sure it's changed. But last I heard, they dropped 30,000 bombs. And they had killed, by the Palestinian Authority's own numbers, the Palestinians' own numbers, not sure if it came from the Palestinian Authority. Anyways, the Palestinians' own numbers around 30,000 people dead. It's a lot of people, no doubt about it, and a lot of them were civilians, no doubt about it. But 30,000 bombs for 30,000 civilians, it's a weird genocide. One bomb per person. If Israel is really targeting people, why wouldn't they just kill more? It's because what they're actually targeting is the Hamas infrastructure, okay? They're targeting the Hamas infrastructure. They have more tunnels in kilometers in length than, I think, New York City's subway. And if you've lived in New York, which I did for 20 years, it's an enormous amount of tunnels. And they put weapon stashes and HQs all over the city. Now, just looking at it from a military perspective, if I was Hamas, I'd do the same thing, right? I might, I wouldn't do the civilian buildings, but, you don't want all your stuff in one place. That's what I mean. You'd spread it out. Any military would do that. You don't put all your stuff in one place. The problem with Hamas is they're putting it with civilians, right? They're putting it in schools, in hospitals. They're putting it in mosques. They're putting it in these places. Israel has spies on the inside. They're getting intel from it. They're using drones to watch where the stuff is moving, where people are going in and out of tunnels. They have an AI. I think it's called the Gospel. If you want to push me on Israel, it's something I don't approve of. Actually, I think it's this Gospel program they have where AI selects the targets, then a human verifies, and they're able to get a lot more targets with AI than like using satellites and people on the ground. So if you want a criticism from me of Israel, I don't think they should be using the AI thing. I think it could possibly lead to I'm not comfortable with the targets it's selecting based on what I've read. But Saifedean thinks that people in the West are like just brainwashed NPCs, and they'll support Israel no matter what Israel does. And he keeps calling Konstantin an NPC over and over and over again. He just doesn't seem to grasp that, like Hamas taking citizens as hostages and Israel keeping certain Palestinians in prison for crimes and attacks. These are two different things, right? Two different things. He can't connect. He can't distinguish between villains, criminals that Israel captures in Israel doing crimes that are Palestinian and locking them away, and then people at a dance festival kidnapped. He can't see the difference there. He can't see the difference between Hamas intentionally targeting civilians and killing them, and Israel killing civilians while intentionally targeting Hamas, who's hiding behind them. I mean, if Hamas could make bulletproof their body armor out of infants, they probably would. Okay. The worst part about this is there's two things. Palestine could easily be rich. There are so many people, so many countries that want to pour money in. Why don't they? Why don't all these people are pro-Palestine? Why don't they just pour money into Palestine? You could say it's hard to get. There's ways to get money in. They won't, because they know it's going to go to terrorism. A lot of countries want to help Palestine, but they can't. Lastly, Saifedean, towards the end of the conversation, you got to watch it. I'll put the link in the description. He says, why do you support Israel so much? Saifedean says to Konstantin. And he's hinting that the reason you support Israel so much is because Konstantin's grandfather was Jewish. It's it's revealing a problem that exists within Palestine. Based on polling, there's a lot of rank Jew hatred in Palestine. There just is, okay? And there are extremist groups in Israel that are extremists and terroristic. La Familia and La Hava, I believe, are their names. The two groups, you can Google them. I know La Familia, but look, they're in Israel and they're extremists, and I condemn them. They're racist, they're bigots, they're disgusting, right? They're a very small group, though. If you look at the polls in, Gaza, West Bank, 70, I think I saw 75 people support October 7th and what happened on October 7th. The idea that we don't care about Palestinians or Palestine, that's just not true. We know we do care. I mean, sane people do care. We are compassionate, but we know Hamas started the war and then they hide behind civilians. That's it. That's what we know. We want Palestine to be prosperous. We want Hamas gone. That's what we want. We want Palestinians rich and healthy and, living great lives. That's what we want. But we know Hamas has got to go. And there are lines Israel can cross. I've called them out when I see soldiers acting cruel or so forth. So yeah, that's I'm out of time.